sometimes I really need to compose myself and how bullish I feel, especially at moments like this when we've waited months, we've waited pretty much years to put in these bullish indicators. This is a lower high Fibonacci. And all that means, everybody, it's a lower high from the bull market high, retracement area, Bitcoin retraced back into it, resistance area. When it gets broken, as it just did, that's a bullish confirmation. That's all that means. And cycles past around the halving, specifically after Bitcoin halvings, Bitcoin makes that move. It is such a bullish indicator for not only Bitcoin, but even more so for the crypto markets in general, for altcoins. Every cycle, go back here, 2017. You can see Bitcoin trading around $1,000. You can even go back to the cycle before that, Bitcoin at like $24 and breaking that very area, the bull market doors. Now, this is foundationally one big piece. That's why I talk about it all the time so often. It's one big piece of my analysis in terms of the bull market starting, at least the parabolic phase of the bull market. But there are so many different indicators that are firing right now. Just technical analysis indicators that I'm sure you're seeing from other analysts online, on X, on YouTube, but also on-chain metrics and other things. There is so much bullishness right now. But with that, especially because you see Bitcoin right now just tested all-time high, as we know, because of that, we're going to see bearish sentiment. And I respect bearish sentiment. I respect analysts that are just, anticipating corrections. But I want to speak to it in this video. And I want to talk about why I think at least a massive, crazy correction won't happen. We'll have dips, major volatility. We just saw it yesterday. If we go over here on a Bitcoin chart, just look at that. Look at that red daily candle. We could have even bigger dips than that. But I want to speak to why right now I think the consistencies of Bitcoin have held up this far, and I think it's going to happen again. And right now is the time for Bitcoin to prove itself. So please hit the subscribe, hit the like, and let's jump into the video. I just saw this clip over here. Gareth Solloway says Bitcoin is likely peaked for the year, and we can expect $30,000 in the case of recession. And by the way, I want to echo this. Before I even break this down, I have conflicting analysis views than what we're about to see from Gareth. But I just want to say, I respect everybody that's putting in the hustle, breaking down charts, breaking down their own analysis, putting their opinions out there. It takes a lot to do that. And I want to say that just because I have conflicting views doesn't mean that I have any issues, right, with Gareth and what he's saying. It's just, I just don't disagree. And I think the data he's offering from his perspective, I think is really helpful to just throw it onto the chart and discuss it and say, let's break down why I don't think that's going to happen, and we'll see what happens. But check this clip out of Gareth. Just saw it before I started recording.
And we could go a little higher. Other than that, I think once the halving's over, you get a correction just based on the hype. I mean, think about it. We've gone from spot ETF to halving. What's next? What's the next narrative that they're going to spin? That's the question.
Well, just continued inflows.
Yeah.
So first off, what she just said, that's a huge piece to what we're about to discuss, continued inflows. That's simple, but there are other things too. So essentially what he's saying, if we go glance at the chart real quick, he's saying, we had the Bitcoin even from the bear market low, we had the Bitcoin spot ETF anticipation. We had the Bitcoin halving anticipation. And here's the Bitcoin halving, this line right here. But now that's over, right? And now going to halving, big correction. And by the way, it's in play. Even from a technical analysis perspective, it's in play. Whenever we have moving averages, and I talk about this all the time, you look at the monthly, the 50 in blue, the 20 in green, it's an incredibly bullish thing that's happening on the monthly chart, the 20 about to cross above the 50. And anytime we have a move like that, I always, and I say this a lot, I always anticipate potential revisits to the moving averages. Bitcoin, from a technical analysis perspective, if it did make a move to say $30,000 going into these moving averages, technically, it would be a pretty normal move, right? But I do want to discuss why I don't think it's going to happen. There will be volatility, but I don't think that big of a move will happen. Here's the thing. So in the video, he was basically saying spot ETF hype is over. The narrative for Bitcoin halving is over. So the first answer, and then I have another answer. The first answer to that, for me, as I look at these charts and I wonder about big corrections, is this. After Bitcoin halving narrative was over in 2020, was there the massive correction because the narrative was over? No. Bitcoin actually put in the very bullish signal after Bitcoin halving. Bitcoin went crazy after the 2020 halving, even without the narrative of the halving any longer. You go back to the cycle before that. Did Bitcoin correct massively because the Bitcoin halving narrative was over? It had a correction. And if we look at it from that wick to the low, a 33% correction. But what happened? It was nowhere near the end of the bear market. It was 2 months of correction, and then it was continued upside, right? It wasn't over for the year. If we go back to the cycle before that, Bitcoin narrative was over. Bitcoin absolutely exploded. Now, here's the thing so first off, that's why I don't think even the Bitcoin narrative ending is a big deal. But here's where it gets crazy. This cycle around, for the first time, we have Bitcoin spot ETFs, and we have institutional demand that is like pouring in, I think more than anybody anticipated. Here's a post I just came across. BlackRock IBIT Bitcoin ETF surpasses $1 billion in volume within the first 90 minutes of trading today. Continued surge in volumes. Record inflows for IBIT yesterday, everybody. Record inflows. And we're weeks into this now. It's not like this hype of the Bitcoin spot ETF faded and there's no longer interest. It is picking up. It is ramping up. And so to just real quick revisit what she just said, inflows, that's something, right? Here's Willy Woo over here. He says, TA charts will signal overbought. And I want to look at momentum. Signal overbought. Traders will try and short. Bitcoin will run those charts over like a freight train. I saw this happen last cycle, late 2020, when hordes of NHW rushed in with spot buys of $1 million tickets. He also said, so you think we're in a bull market? We're not. This has been the warm-up. And by the way, this was 2 days ago. A full fundamentals-driven bull market is marked by a break of the upper blue band. When it breaks, TradeFi is in for a shock. So here's his Bitcoin Matrix Index. You can just check it out. And if you look at this, what does this look like? You can see this band just getting ready to break. And in cycles past, that's Bitcoin going crazy, right? Bitcoin going crazy. Bitcoin going crazy. If I go over here to a monthly chart, it's so interesting to watch the momentum, the RSI. It looks a lot like that, right? And this is where we start seeing people, hey, Bitcoin's overbought on the monthly. Uh-oh, right? It's overbought, it's overextended, time to retrace. But cycles past at this exact time, breaking these bull market doors, guess what? Right around the same area, bull market doors being broken. You go back here, it was hitting overbought right around the same area. Look how much more upside still in play for Bitcoin every cycle, even when hitting overbought on the monthly. Same thing all the way back here, 2013. Again, the consistencies on these charts are insane. Going over here to the weekly chart, same thing. A ton of upside in play for Bitcoin right now, even on the RSI. The RSI can hang around for Bitcoin. Look at this cycle. Look at this cycle back here, 2017. The RSI, this momentum oscillator, slower moving momentum oscillator, just hobbling around up here. Overbought, out of overbought. Big dip, big dip, big dip. So the overbought indicator, and this is what Willie was saying, if you can't use it alone like that, you really have to take into account, I think, all of this other data. But I do think there will be a lot of people that are thinking we're overextended now, and that is completely cool. If people want to have an idea that Bitcoin is going to retrace big time and go into a correction and really not break all-time highs and continue upwards like we have done in cycles past, that is completely cool. But I did want to throw this data, it's very simple data out there. Now, along the way, there could be a ton of volatility, right? So right now we're sitting at 65,000. I go over to the daily chart and here's some short-term analysis. Bitcoin it really is primed for potentially retracing to the Fibonacci, the higher end of the Fibonacci even, right around $57,000, right? Retracing to these areas is a really big deal. We've even talked about just this reversal zone, this Lux Algo reversal zone that Bitcoin hits. And just even in the bullish environment, being able to retrace or consolidate between the upper end of the reversal zone and the 20-day moving average. So with that in mind, we just saw a really big retracement from swing high to swing low on Bitcoin, 13%, really big deal. We can get continued retracements. We can get a lot of just volatility in these markets. But I think for me, as I'm zoomed out, I see the story that's playing out and I see the demand factor. And even from a sentiment perspective, I know that the fear and greed index right now, it's it's leaning towards green when it comes to Bitcoin. And I get that. And I think that's why we could get some retracement and some big dips. But from a cycle perspective, I don't even see us in that hype phase that we've seen in cycles past. I don't even think we're there. And I'm pretty sure most people would agree from a sentiment perspective. It doesn't even seem like retail is here yet. And so for me, I think there's a ton of upside still to go for Bitcoin, for crypto markets. And I just wanted to throw that out there, just a macro look at Bitcoin right now. We've been kind of doing a lot of zoomed in on Bitcoin TA. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to look at altcoins. And again, shout out to Gareth for his view here. Shout out for expressing it and putting it out there. I know that he gets a ton of hate for it, for putting that opinion out there, which I think is ridiculous. People are allowed to have opinions, man. Just because it might conflict with your bullishness, I don't think is any good reason to put anybody down. So those are my thoughts in terms of all of the data that's out there. It is going to be just an incredibly crazy ride watching what happens next. And I'm here for it, everybody. I'm enjoying it. I hope you're all enjoying it. I hope you're having a good week out there. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, turn notifications on. Get notified when I'm doing these Bitcoin, crypto, altcoin videos, all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.